Okay. When we last left our crew, they
Are you
were.
recording?
Yep.
Okay.
When we
So Dave
last
can
left.
catch up.
Yeah. When we last left our crew, we were neck deep in a space station's newly discovered spin cycle. I don't know how else to describe it but that. You're on a sort of private slash secret base or station held by the Starfarers or Starcrafters Guild, having acquired the data you were sent here for and now needing to, as the kids say, GTFO. The current situation as she stands is the system is spinning in a way not prescribed by the original designers due to the fact that your ship is currently like attached to it and kind of spinning it extra.
The fun part is, I believe they are the original manufacturers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, oh, you mean the Starcrafters Guild's probably the original manufacturers? Yes, they would be very cross with the way, I mean, for that matter, they might be the original manufacturers of your ship. There's at least even odds of that. Okay, so you are several layers down in sort of a data repository type of situation. The ship is spinning. The Coriolis effect is in full effect. Some alarms have been sounded at your hijinks and smashing of heads and some security emplacements, cameras and stuff being smashed. But the larger alarms are obviously, oh my God, why do I want to hurl? Why is the ship spinning? How long before we lose structural integrity? Type of stuff. Oh yes, and also
Didn't take much more of this, Captain.
yeah, also something has been roused out of slumber and is galumphing this way through the dark of space. Or so K might or might not have nervously informed you. Somebody's Jimmy's got rustled in a spiritual sense. So that's going on. What do you do? I was going to ask Monster, but he is not here, so I will ask the person who didn't get to roll it all last session. I will say, hey, son, what do you do?
I think it's important for us to get the data and get out quickly.
The data has been got. That has been achieved. You have what you came for. Now the question is getting back out to the ship in some way, shape, or form. You are in your doctor's togs, mostly. Monster's in something approximating his spacesuit covered in a shower curtain. Or the shreds of a shower curtain. K is in sort of like sort of an off beige polo shirt and some bootcut jeans. No, sort of a corporate drone kind of attire. Armin's just dressed like Armin, but with different cufflinks. Or at least
Armin is almost always dressed like Armin.
Yeah, Armin is basically dressed like Armin, but with different cufflinks. And Drifter is in sort of system sort of station jumpsuit, and I think that's everybody accounted for in terms of Tyra. The space suits are back at sort of the access room near the airlift where the ship is currently docked.
In a compartment.
Yeah, where the ship is currently testing the strength of the airlock locks and the docking rig. So, what you think? What you thinking? Margie, your mic is mic'd. Your mic is
Sorry.
mic'd. It's all right. I had to deal with it on a work call today with like 40 people on and not really wanting to say anything to the guy because he was a VP. But I knew who it was. I knew who it was, and I really wanted to throw a pencil at him across the room, across the floor.
That's where you say in all innocence. I think I'm getting some background noise. Is it me?
Is somebody driving in their mouth with a backhoe? This guy was really going. Anyway, I can do worse than that. I can do worse than that. I had a moment where I thought I had muted, and we were talking with Amazon, and I thought I had, when I took my headphones out, somehow I managed to unmute my phone, and I turned to my coworker and said, "It seems to me that if you really wanted to know about delivery times and something like that, like whether or not these delivery times were achievable, that would have been a conversation to have 3 weeks ago." And when I put my headphone back on, somebody was finishing up the sentence, "Think your mic is live. You might want to fix that."
I can actually top that.
Oh dear.
So I was on a primary people, including my VP, were in a room, and there was sort of a, basically, maybe we shouldn't be, discussing this in front of, and myself. I thought when they'd cut off themselves that they'd also muted me.
And they didn't?
They could hear me. Yes, and I was humming the Jeopardy song.
Yeah. I was talking about Amazon's incompetent project management to the guys who were managing the project, though. So that was, it doesn't matter. The project got canceled. The project got canceled largely through their inability to manage the project, so it was fine anyway.
There you go. So
anyway, all right. So, Son, thoughts, or are you just turning to everybody else and going, guys?
I mean, there are two general ways we can do this. Either just run pell-mell for our ship.
We need to act like we're panicking. Well, a little easy. Yeah, and one little fly in the ointment on this is the way the ship is acting right now. All of the lift that you came down on is not opening. It has gone like basically into lockdown, because it runs through like sort of the central shaft kind of the station, which right now is under
going off at the moment.
It's under a bit of undue stress. It would be, and honestly, I'm not sure that you'd want to be in the lift right now. There'd be a little bit of being inside of the soda can while somebody shakes it.
You're
thing going on there.
Breaking up some for me.
Am I?
At least for me. I don't know if for anyone else.
How about anybody else?
Not for me.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay.
So you may want to try.
James, what's the second way?
Secondly, yes. You said firstly, we can run pell-mell, or
be more sneaky and wander casually back to our ship.
I think anything casual is happening while we're in a death spin.
Yeah, casual. Well,
The word death
Well-
usually makes people a little upset.
yeah.
Yes, but I mean, there's us knocking people out of the way to get back to our ship, or kind of joining the panic and working our way back to the ship that way.
I'm clearly a panicking outsider rather than I'm presenting myself as a panicky insider. Being super calm in this situation actually probably draw more attention to yourself than anything. There's also the question of how.
I will also go for method 3.
What's up?
Jizz?
Escape pods.
Ooh,
Have the ship pick us up.
ooh. That's I mean, there's
And I can already think of a way to shortcut that if we can't easily find escape pods.
I mean, assuming the station is built to code, and it's built by the StarCrafters Guild, who wrote the code. There's a
And it's the StarCrafters that are living on it, so they have an incentive to have it be built to code.
right, and there's, I mean, the tricky thing is you're in a high security area, so using the pods in this area would be a security hole if it can't be, secured in some way. So you're still looking at probably some security measures that would have to be got over. But yeah, I mean, that doesn't have you having to get back up to the ship, certainly. Figuring out where that lies in relation to everything else is probably step the first. But yeah. And there's a couple different ways you can do that. I mean, there's hacking. Grab one of the guys that Monster conked on the head and see if he's still conscious enough to say where are the escape pods. Any number of things like that. So, what do you think? Who wants to do one of those things? Questioning somebody would be probably, could be command, sway, something like that.
We could also,
Uh-huh.
via flashback,
Oh,
have Monster's thing approximating a shower curtain actually be like a makeshift escape bubble.
oh.
Like somebody rigged that up beforehand.
Like those are like the super emergency ones
Uh-huh.
where it's like
And then all we need to do is have Monster use that grenade launcher that I know he's carrying with his heavy weight.
one of my darling friends, who's also kind of a goober when it comes to buying gifts, got my kids one of those inflatable hamster balls that you use for like rolling around like parks and stuff. It's terrible. It's 20 individual air things that you have to inflate separately. It's a nightmare. And one of them was punctured before we ever got it out of the bag. But I just kind of picture this thing like inflating like that. Oh my God, there's so many good options here. I mean, I love that. I love the idea of the some portion of Monster's outfit being like a life raft. Or even if it was just something,
I think that's cool.
even if it was just something in the back, like a backpack underneath like not even the cloak, but like something that he had like on the back, like on his back, like
the equivalent of carrying a parachute on the plane.
yeah, except it's a life raft. It's an inflatable life raft. Except in this case, it's an inflatable life raft you have to crawl into, and oh my God, because it's not going to be big. You guys are going to be in there kind of cramped. But I heard a beep.
So you've turned this into us Temple of Dooming out of the plane.
I mean, yes, in something that looks If you take that picture that James just linked and combine that with a life raft to elongate it and make it big enough to hold like 5 adults, yeah, basically. And to be fair, you turned it into you guys life rafting out of the plane in Temple of Doom. All right. So at that point, you really just need an airlock, honestly. And there's still going to be security concerns and stuff like that. But let's flashback. I mean,
So, who has the rig to pull this off?
I have one rig.
you have one rig, but this is, I mean, a life raft thing for a doctor. That just seems like the kind of thing that you could get, that you could like know where to get your hands on, kind of a thing. It's kind of fun. So I kind of like that. So it's a rig roll, and the question is, how much stress is it? Where's the? I gotta grab the book. The flashback stuff is
Based on how unlikely it is.
yeah, from like 0.
It feels like it might have come from the same flashback that led us to this. Use the ship to accelerate the station planning to begin with.
Yeah,
Because somebody would have logically asked, well, how do we get out then?
yeah. And well, we could have maybe an escape pod, or maybe we can. Oh, what about just like a temporary escape pod? Maybe we could just carry it. We don't have anything like that. Oh, I can get something like that. Oh, I love that. I love that. You figure out how you're going to be able to like, because your role probably would have also been a rig roll to go like, let's just make sure the docking clamps are going to hold when you try to spin a station, and you're working on that, and Sun goes carting off to acquire the relevant lifeboat thing. Do flashbacks. Ordinary action. Sure. I don't think this is probably, I mean, honestly, an ordinary action for which you had easy opportunity. If you were telling me, I want to go get a temporary lifeboat, like inflatable emergency lifeboat thing for the ship, that's not hard. I mean, that's like, especially for cheap ships. I mean, if you'd rather use that than an escape pod if you possibly can, because those things are expensive to replace. I don't think that's really hard. So it's probably a zero stress flashback. Sometimes it entails an action roll because there's danger or trouble involved. I still don't think so.
I mean, there's the danger of us all plummeting out into the vacuum of space if it doesn't work, but
I feel like it's mostly a fortune roll, just to see what kind of shape it's in. Because
How successful we are with it?
well, like parachutes, you kind of don't know how well it's working until it deploys. So
Got it. So the rig roll might be after we deploy it.
yeah, I think you're just gonna have it, and we're gonna have probably have a rig roll for the deploy. I don't think there's a roll actually as part of the flashback. Sun can just go and honestly go to a ship supply depot, pick up one, pick one up, backpack, the backpack mode. You sure you want this in a backpack? It's like 50 kilos. Oh yeah, the person carrying it's going to be fine. Of course, you had to lug it. Do you realize the error of that logic when you realize that while Monster will be carrying it during the mission, you have to haul it back to the ship? So there's you, like, with this thing on both shoulders, sweating your way back over to the docking bay, lugging this 50 kilo monstrosity on your back, sweating through your shirt, all that kind of good stuff. So we see that, while Drifter is like, rigging the docking ring and stuff like that. So Monster pulls off the top cloak, and we see the backpack that Sun had been lugging is strapped to his arm, to his suit and his armor. And I think getting through the security on the airlock is probably going to be a hack again. For Armin? That sound about right? If you're so inclined, Armin?
I was
Armin
about to
is
say,
the hackiest right now.
Yeah, he's the.
I mean, I can do it.
I think you're the only one who
Yeah,
can.
David
hack.
showed up beforehand. I had just been like, blow the wall.
Yeah.
That would have definitely got him his XP trigger. So.
Yeah, that would.
But.
Yeah.
I can just hack the door.
So interesting thing about this, I'm not going to have you roll. I'm not going to have you roll the thing because you got the gizmo from your people, from your employer, that will help you do this thing. So I actually have to make you do a roll for the rig because it stages closely enough, and the security on this particular door is not such that it's really going to be that big a problem. What I am going to have you do is I'm going to have you roll study for me. Because there's something that I want to see if you notice really about the.
Give me a spot check.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm probably cheating and using this as a spot check, but it applies to study. And do you have study? Yeah, you do, don't you?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I'm
Because
a push.
you're using the gizmo on the door, and I'm gonna have you manipulate this thing with study rather than with hack right now.
Risky.
It's risky because it's right in the middle of everything, and yeah, risky standard, I think. Unless you want to learn something good and whatever, but got your one roll, your one die. Rolled a 4. How come I rolled 2 for you?
Because I pushed.
Oh, you pushed. Okay, good to know. God, look at your stress, man. Holy moly. You're right there at the borderline.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So a 4. I should have nailed down what the risk was going to be with this thing. Well, the risk is you're doing this thing in the middle of like kind of craziness with the whole thing, and I think probably having it take enough time to having it take a little, too much time, and somebody, either the guards coming back around or somebody else noticing that there's a problem down here. But
Hold on.
yeah.
So you're saying that this would take longer?
I'm saying that the risk is that it would that the time that it takes is going to lead to interference. Not that it would take longer, but just the length that it would take. The risk is that something might come in there. Does that make sense?
I would like to resist.
You would like to resist that? Okay.
Yes.
So resisting in this case
Is there
would be.
stuff that we can do to help out with this?
Well, see, so this is the first time we've used the resist roll. So this is a thing we haven't done before, where it's like, okay, here are the consequences, and you kind of say this is what's going to happen. Example in this case is, and the way the game asks you to do this is you describe what happens. Not like here's what can happen, but while you're fiddling around with this thing and trying to get it to actually work and kind of cursing under your breath, one of the guards kind of comes to and starts shooting at you guys while you're sort of clustered in the hallway. The one in the back, who's in the back, Sun takes a shot in the back because he didn't see anything, and he's waiting for this airlock to cycle. And Mike's like, nope. Or, the guy shoots you, he does 4 harm. You see the hole, like you literally see light shining through your chest, and he's like, no, you resist to make it less. it's kind of a time rewind thing, and I'm not sure how I feel about it.
Well, it's more of, you're going to have some interference before you're able to get out. I'm like, I don't like that.
I don't like that. And if
So-
nothing else,
It's less time rewindy and more of, here's the consequences. I don't like this.
I don't like that, and I rolled badly enough that that's actually a condition. So resisting, do you resist? You resist with you resist with insight. Is that correct?
I'd resist with whatever I would be resisting with. Insight's most likely here.
Since it has to do, I mean, this is all based off of study in the first place. So you roll your insight, take the.
I take 6 stress minus my highest roll.
That's okay. I mean, I just want to point out you are almost maxed out on stress, and if you don't resist, it's probably somebody else getting shot at.
I heal the stress.
You heal the stress?
Actually, no, I don't heal the stress. I didn't crit.
Okay, but you get so you take no stress. Okay, I hadn't seen that you'd already rolled, so never mind. Go, look at you. All right, so you don't take any stress from that. You get the resist, and usually when this kind of stuff stages down, the issue doesn't completely go away, but it
May or may not.
It downgrades considerably. So rather than the first you hear about this is Sun getting shot in the back, it's Shun hearing somebody groan and kind of rolling over in the rattle of a gun and him going, oh crap, and reaching back and slapping a panel so that the door cycles shut, as the guy is shooting against the door frame and the door and stuff like that, and said, we really, 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 really need to get out of here right now because things are going to get very complicated immediately. The 4 on a standard advances our little get off the station thing by 1, right? I think.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Hello, I am back.
Or no, it doesn't.
Problem solved.
It doesn't. That advances it 2, right? Like because it was a standard. Advances the clock by 2. I believe that's right. On getting off the station clock. All right. So catching up, Dave. There was a flashback thing, and underneath your cape thing, there was a backpack, like a 50.
I'm also reblogging stuff in Discord for what it's worth.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, you had a sort of a life raft, space life raft strapped to your back. It's like 50 kilos. That was one of the thingbobs here. Airlock is cycling. This part gets a little bit ugly because basically what you have to do is you sort of expand the backpack over the outer door of the airlock. Everybody kind of gets against it or kind of, in it, reaches out through the seal and cycles the door and just gets poofed out into the thing.
If you're on mute.
The tricky part actually sounds more like it would be, how do we make sure when we go poofing out into space, we're poofing out in the direction of the ship?
Well, the ship, you're definitely not going out in the direction of the ship because you're going to get spun out away from the station. The ship has to come to you, which is of course, that's been part of the plan all along.
Of course.
All right, detach from the station and come and get us. Right?
Cut to black and white flashback.
And if you have to, the problem is with these emergency ones is you really can't steer them unless you stick the barrel of a gun out through the, the vacuum seal and, fire bullets out in one direction or another.
Which sounds like amazingly fun idea.
Does it? Because I'm telling it wrong if that's true. Okay, so I think, okay.
Your monster did.
Oh, but back to Armin had resisted and gave me a study roll. One of the thing you noticed about this thing, and it's kind of a flash and die kind of gizmo. It's going to burn out the system, but work. It's more of like a localized virus kind of a thing. Armin, the kind of level that this particular criminal organization plays at? And this is better tech than they should have. Really.
The Starfarer Guild is
No.
a criminal organization.
No. The organization that retained you guys to come after the Starcrafters and get in here.
Oh.
The was it Cobalt? I think it was the Cobalt something. Cobalt Syndicate?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're smugglers, and they've made a name for themselves primarily by virtue of being. It wasn't the Bornico Syndicate. It was the Cobalt Syndicate, and they've made a deal with smuggling and knowing some routes and stuff like that, and it makes sense that they're going after this. But they're not. That's their thing. They're smugglers. It's like expecting like Han Solo to pull like a really high tech like hacking spike out of his back pocket and just sort of have those things on hand. This is good tech. This is the kind of tier stuff that you see on like the high end sort of R&D labs from back when you were in the Counters Guild, or at least you imagine that. Not that you really spent that much time in the high tech R&D labs because a bunch of nerds, but that's just the thing that occurs to you. It doesn't look like hacked together. It looks like it was. It doesn't look like a hacked together bit of tech. It looks like a prototype. If you catch the nuances of those differences, you know what I mean? Anyway, that's what I'm telling you about from your study roll. I think we need probably a helm roll to detach this ship and get your start the rendezvous process. Probably for Drifter.
Yeah.
Your helm is a 2, is it right? And I guess the real question is just whether or not you want to use like a gambit from the crew or anything of that nature, or push or anything like that.
I'll push myself for extra die, yeah.
Okay. That'll get you up to 3. Are you comfortable with that?
My helm is actually 3.
Oh, your helm is 3. Oh, that's right. You raised it, didn't you? Okay, that gets you up to a 4. Well, never mind then. And that'll get you your 5, which is pretty good. I really need to talk about whether or not these things are risky types of things.
Unless you tell me up front, I'm kind of assuming risky scanner just to make things go faster.
Exactly. But it helps me to
if you're looking for a 5 consequence, I would like to suggest that relative momentum is the problem here.
Yeah, and I think here's the thing. You were using basically I'm not going to use the right, I want to say attitudinal jets, but like you're using, in the Expanse books, they call it flying tea kettle, because you use like, the compressed steam kind of, your flying tea kettle means you're not using the actual full engines. You're just kind of flipping things around on axes and doing, gas, the kind of the compressed gas kind of thing to pilot around. This isn't going to be enough to correct for certainly the ship has built up a lot of momentum coming off the sort of the central area. The station itself was kind of isolated that area as much as it could from where you guys are. So you sort of floated out with nothing more than the expansion of the gas, which certainly propelled you, but it's 5 people inside of this big plastic bubble that was grazing the walls anyway. The momentum's obviously quite a bit different. So I think to get kind of turned around and get something akin to a rendezvous, you need to like actual fire up the proper engines, and get some proper propulsion going.
And there's a danger there, which is that they're probably running hot because they were just being used to push this entire gigantic station at one point.
Right.
That's if I was going to move a space station, I wouldn't be using attitude adjustment jets. I would be using like the main rockets.
Right.
Mhm.
What I am looking, yeah, exactly. No, absolutely. And like I said, these guys have been trying to go dark for a lot of different reasons anyway, so there's kind of an issue there. But I feel like, Mike, I might have to put you on research and find mode, but I'm looking for the damage to the ship kind of thing. Damage of ship. Damage of ship, really? 162, 182. I might just flip back to this and figure it out later. I should. Okay. Yeah. Over on the ship sheet, there is. I think really it's more of a question of what you're having to do. You're not able to do it gracefully. A, you're not in the ship, and B, it's really a question of the engines plus the hull, and because there's a potential there, like detaching yourself from the station potentially has all kinds of snapback with the, but things being what they are. Am I looking at this right on the character sheet, Mike? The bottom row of things are damage to the ship. I feel like what we're looking at here is like it's neither one of it being like heavy damage, but like a box of damage to the engines and a box of damage to the hull.
So
that's light damage to
regular damage is 2 damage.
I feel like it's sort of two things here, but
I'm kind of okay with that. I would tend to lean on the engines for dramatic reasons, though. If we can't make our quick getaway, that lets the people in the station marshal their thing. Plus, we're still in the path of whatever case ended
up. So, here's the thing.
Yeah.
That also knocks out one thing of our engines and one thing of our hull.
Well, we only have
one
thing in the. I'm fine with it not being the hull. I think.
No. I'm just saying that took out our jump drive.
Well, you still have a thing of engines left, though, don't you? Because there's 2 engines. You still have an engine thing, and you only have like one.
When your ship is damaged, that damage also renders a module inoperable as an additional consequence. I'm
totally okay with that.
I'm actually.
Need to fix it.
I think I'm still kind of okay with that because then you guys are sort of scrambling to fix this, like get things back online when you scramble back into the ship.
Oh yeah, it even says players can rig a solution temporarily.
Yeah.
Yay.
Are we good with
that?
If
it will work for Wrath of Khan, it will work for us.
Take a spanner, slam it in between the two, bridge the gap between the two breakers that have popped, and bridge the gap. Take the arc through your hand and something. I don't know, something dramatic.
Oh boy.
Off we go. Yeah. So you see the ship arc beautifully away from the station. Perhaps even with a little small smile on your face, kind of through the haze of this thing, working exactly. But you also see kind of like a trailing gas coming off the thing, and that makes the smile go away toot sweet. I think. Do we want to now? The question is the whole thing. We probably have like, I don't know how. I guess maybe it's just that we took damage in the cargo hold / smuggling compartments kind of area. Do we? Is that's something we can resist as well if we're inclined to?
Yes.
Like have one thing to have to worry about. Do we want to resist the? I guess one or the other or both. I guess you can do both.
Yes, you'd have to do each individually.
Right. So just asking, do we want to have a resistance roll to mitigate some of the damage that the ship took with this whole like snapping away from the station and overheating the engines and all that kind of stuff? Or are we just going to let this thing ride and soak it up later? You're basically saying, I want to do this, you roll, and then you see how much stress you take from, how should I put this? The resistance roll always works. Resisting a thing from happening always works. The question is, how much stress does it cause you to reduce the damage? And what I'm thinking is each one of these rolls could potentially roll back some of the damage on the engines, or the damage to the ship. So we start, we resist the hull, or we resist the engine thing, or whatever. Or we leave it and we worry about that with rig rolls and not
So,
taking
Bill,
stress.
you are the best person for this since your starting ability gives you a bonus die.
I'm okay trying the resistance roll, like just to see how it plays out.
Yeah. Okay. So let me I'm just going to look at Drifter's thing here. You said his initial ability. All right. Ace Pilot, you have a potency on all speed related rolls. When you roll to resist the consequences of piloting, gain an extra dice. So you would resist with prowess. So you basically roll prowess. And when it asks you if you have a bonus dice, you say yes, and you take another loop. And that means that you take 1 stress from, remote. What does this look like? Is it remote piloting? Or are you shouting extra
No, I think it's the same remote piloting that we use to get the ship to spin the station to begin with.
So
he's got a small console. He's programmed this thing into the Urbot earlier.
right.
A series of commands that would say, start the engines up, burn for this such and such time, shut down, burn again. And he's just kind of programmed some macros in there. Right now, he's furiously rewriting a bunch of macros, sending them up and saying, okay, now do this.
He's like, scrambling into a belt, popping out this extra chip, slapping it in there. So you run this, run it.
It's like, imagine rehearsing for the play where you make fun of the Duke and it's the funniest play of the season and you look at the audience and there's the Duke.
Yeah. And you're rewriting right then. The console that you're holding, is this like I'm picturing a Switch, like honestly, like a Nintendo Switch. Like you get a tiny little screen that you're supposed to use to like see everything that you normally see in the cockpit, or something.
Yeah,
I
think that's fair.
Yeah.
Like, but maybe with like heavier duty handles on the outside or something where you like grab the outside edge and pull it wide, so you've got a screen, and otherwise it looks like the ends would like push together, something like that, and you're kind of pulling it out. It's like nope, and so the rewrite is a lot of like, I don't know if you've ever messed with. This is the visual that we're going to use because you've got the special effects crew is using this thing, but it's like watching. Oh crap! What is that programming language that they start out teaching kids with? It starts with an S. Crap! My son does this every week.
I know what you're talking about. The MIT language.
Yeah. God dang it! What is it called? It's kind of very object oriented.
Scratch.
Scratch. Yeah, because you're building from scratch. So the Scratch scripts tend to be like two action words, and then there's like sort of a module that you drop in, and then this module then acts on dragging another module. So there's a lot of you like sort of really quickly like swiping across the screen going, you're out, grab this thing from the other box, pull it in, pull it that down thing, and run. And as it activates down through the things, you see the thing like cool down a little bit. The snapback from the cable, so you actually put the ship sort of into a slow barrel roll to keep the docking umbilical from snapping back and crashing into the side of the ship, because you kind of put it into a spin, sort of turns it. It's not gone exactly, unless you actually detach the umbilical, which actually would make a ton of sense just to get it away from the ship. And powering down the engines from like the heavy burn, adjusting for that, and that initial thing lets us resist the hull damage, if not the engine thing. Because the first thing was like, let's not put a hole in the ship. Engines we can reboot. Emergency shutdown protocols and stuff like that can be overridden.
Yeah, and I saw Interstellar, and I saw the docking scene in that, and hopefully it's not that tense, but yeah.
I gotta go. Yeah. No, it's not. It's not quite like that. But yeah, you're kind of like snapping back away from this. Kind of like, okay, let's just spin rather than letting it snap back into our hull. Let's turn it and do a detach and detach the umbilical and let it go spinning off into space. And yeah, the engine's overheat. We can deal with the engine overheating and stuff like that. So okay, so you guys the ship is kind of pulling into, and that was a risky. So we're gonna get that thing going here. And you guys are sort of in free fall floating, but the ship is lining up to be ready to receive you in the cargo bay doors. This was the big problem: is you want the cargo bay doors to work because that's how you get into the ship, and you don't want the umbilical snapping back and wrecking any of that kind of stuff because that would be problematic.
It's no fun to pop a balloon when you're in the balloon.
Yeah, no. Okay, we're going to be up against the ship and we're going to bounce. We need to pop this thing and then be inside of it while we're losing air. And oh wait, this is not going to work well. All right, so yeah, the thing is kind of coming around and sort of the cargo bay thing is kind of opened up. You see sort of the off gassing there. And Kay, what are you doing or not doing with regards to whatever potential big ugly is closing in on the station? Because right now, the two things that have changed the signature of this station that have the kind of energy that this thing notices is the sensing sort of probing thing that you did inside the ship and the big hot engine of the spaceship that you're literally closing in on. Like those are the two things that are different from the station that are likely to draw attention. What you doing?
Yeah, I mean, so my intent was, and I don't know if this is something, before we got into the bubble or after, but yeah, obviously I want to set a big Eat at Joe's sign up station in some way. Now everything we saw in the one thing was really mundane, correct? In the vault, that was all mundane.
Yeah, I mean the station is as low tech as a space station in the black can be. It's not using, as near as you could tell, any precursor. There may be some precursor sort of emergency systems, like we're all screwed, so we might as well turn stuff on, kind of things. But everything is in like cold storage as far as any of that stuff would go. So there wouldn't be anything there. If you wanted to, and this would probably cost you some stress, but if you wanted to, you could do a flashback to something that you left back with your like a box that you left back with your spacesuits in the room by the original airlock that like you hit a remote thing and the box opens up and the last little collection of those beetles come boiling out or something like that. Or, we see them just in something that was next to the space station. Because in terms of an Eat It Joe sign, you need something weird and...
Right. And I think I have that. I'm just trying to open. I somehow accidentally closed my window. So hang on a second. I believe in my load.
Okay.
One of my load. So I have Mystic Ammunition as part of my load.
Yeah.
I also have a personal memento, either of which I think I can as or retro as is something to use to turn up the the on the station.
Okay.
So the question is, either one of them. I'm wondering to see if I can't maybe, kind of
Well, the original
move the currents towards something to cause it to.
the original sort of bell chime that you rang for this thing was resonating through the station itself. So you can start with that. You could leave something. Probably either way, I'm probably looking at some sort of a tune roll, either to activate that thing or to sort of make you guys quieter, so that the station is still kind of the only thing. And it's really just a question of which you'd prefer. Whether it's more like reaching out to the ship and sort of making it just a quieter kind of thing, less noticeable, or reaching out to the station and sort of amplifying whatever you left behind, to kind of make that a bigger thing. The risk is going to be, and it'll probably be, I'm going to say standard risky. The risk is going to be, because you're doing this attunement thing, is you're going to be leaving sort of an attuned fingerprint on stuff. Now, this isn't going to be the kind of thing that a random little like galactic, or star crafter, cop is going to be able to read. But you bring somebody in here who is similarly gifted, or gifted, I shouldn't say similarly gifted, but gifted in the way, and they get like that they get your Signare. If you'll allow me the opportunity to utterly mangle some Latin. But you know what I mean? They're going to get like a read on, not you, like I don't know who this is, but I can tell you that they were trained academically. They're not a mystic, and blah blah. They'll be able to get enough to kind of put somebody probably on your trail. That's the risk, obviously, if the 4-5 kind of result, kind of a deal. So I'm just laying that out there. That's true either way, really, regardless of which way it goes. I mean, that's probably what the risk is. Or that might be the risk on the station, and the risk on the ship is that the ship's got kind of a weird way signature going forward for a while until you reattune it or get it cleansed or burn some sage or something. We had a weird thing in the Apocalypse World game on Friday night where we were doing, like, one of the characters was helping somebody else going out into a risky situation, and sort of give them a sort of a sachet kind of charm thing, but didn't describe it at the time, like typed it up and emailed it out to us a little bit later. And it was supposed to be like a couple of little like herbs and so on and so forth wrapped around blackberry in this like little bag or whatever. And it's, post-apocalyptic, set in New York kind of a deal. But for whatever reason, the text correction capitalized BlackBerry like the digital device. So it read like it was like a little burlap sack with like sage and thyme and
a blackberry
and forget me not, all knotted around a blackberry as like the charm against this whatever dangerous fairy creature they were going out after or whatever. I just thought of it when you're talking about burning sage to like deal with the technological signature or something like that. So what do you think? What do you want to do here? Because you can, in the same way you can tell a storm's coming, you can tell that it's getting close enough to be an issue potentially.
Can you remind me, about like the change in the riskiness versus the scope?
This one, so what I would say with this one, because you're working at it at range and you're trying to make a little bit of adjustment. I was going to say that it's risky limited. And so that means, assuming you succeed, it moves like a tick on the clock and it's straightforward. If you want to sort of, this is a seesaw, right? So you can move risky down to desperate, but the consequences become worse. The success options there, you move the clock. As you know, that goes up from a limited to a standard result, for going for that kind of a thing. If you want to, but the result there, I mean, again, is going to be a lot stronger in terms of what you're looking for. So, you know, I want the ship to basically be invisible. I want to push that thing up, or I really, really want the station to look tasty. You know, pushing it to a standard result is going to get you a lot closer to what you're looking for, as far as that goes, and it pushes you down to desperate. The downside, basically, what it boils down to, and this, John Harper has had a weird love affair with Troll Babe for the longest time, and there's a thing in there that really reminds me of Troll Babe, or at least that's always been my impression. He might hear that and go, I don't know what the hell you're talking about, but there's a thing with Troll Babe where it's like you can fail kind of 3 times trying the same thing, and there's kind of that thing in this where it's like, if I'm in a controlled situation and I screw up, that's fine. The situation gets worse and I can try, you know, sort of the same kind of thing, and it's risky. And if I screw that up, I can try the same sort of thing again, and it's desperate. So the downside to desperate is if things go wrong, you kind of don't have anywhere to go but just deal with the shit that falls on you. But the payoff, as you know, Margie, is just good for you in terms of, you know, some character things. So doing something a little bit. So basically you're, you know, rather than, it's already risky, but you can push yourself, really put yourself out there psychically, I guess, and really push for that. It makes it more of a desperate attempt on your part, but the payoff is better. That's what it boils down to, story-wise, is you're going to, you know, rather than trying to be subtle about it, you're going to push really hard. And, you know, potentially the result there is good, but, you know, it's just plain more desperate. Rather than being risky and somebody's going to be able to, you know, track you. The desperate situation is, you know, if that doesn't go quite, you know, the result of anything other than, you know, the big success is going to be something like, you know, well, we're going to start another clock of get away from the creature. Or something like that. You know, you're going to fill up the clock, but we're just switching to another clock of the creature is not, and it's not that it's coming after the ship, it's coming after you, because you're going to look like the biggest, tastiest signal out here. If it has to do with the station, then you're, you know, the whole station is going to stink of you, kind of thing. Once somebody comes in here and investigates. Of course, given what you've just done to the station, they're going to be investigating the bits and pieces of the station. So, you know.
So I actually think that so here's what I was picturing, because, you know, when you were first talking about having left something there, my first thought was, you know, that small memento kind of really resonated with me on that, to say, you know, it's something he always carries around with him, or you know, that one of the first things he finds that is, you know.
And if the risk ends up being a realized risk, then yeah, it's going to make a real hell of a good homing beacon back to you.
Right. And then the other side of that is, I was thinking that it could also be, what makes it more desperate is that, you know, it actually is more powerful than I expected, that I thought it was.
Yeah.
And kind of pushing it, then that gives me the boost in the space.
Well, and your use in this kind of stuff up to this point in time has been a lot closer to the kind of things that you do in the station. When you're doing a tune, it's like, you know, sensing, it's a lot more like item augury. at the dig sites and stuff like that, saying, "Ooh, this is probably notable. This is going to be interesting to investigate. Let's pack that up." And that's kind of what you've been. This kind of stuff is, yeah, academically, technically, it's always been something you've been kind of aware as possible, but it's not something you've ever really done much of. So it's always been kind of theoretical knowledge without really application. So putting it to the test when the adrenaline is riding high in these kinds of situations has unintended consequences sometimes, potential. All right, so what you would do is be in a tune roll. You can push yourself to get an extra dice. I think there's enough consequences. I don't really feel like throwing out a devil's bargain on top of that. But there's a gambit. There's at least 2, and I think maybe all 3 of the gambit dice are available as well. So you could throw.
How do people feel about the gambit dice? Because if I do succeed, I'll generate another gambit.
I'd say go for it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Now the new
So
gambit, the gambit is generated if you get a 6, right? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, I mean the short description here is you generate gambits on a desperate roll. I don't have the long description up. If somebody can pull up the text there.
Pretty sure that's what it is,
But yeah, I think it's like, yeah, if you had a 6, you would generate
6.
Yeah, if your roll gets a 6, then okay. So your tune is 2 dice. You can push yourself if you want.
I already took off the
stress
points for that.
So that gives you 3, and then the gambit gives you 4. So you're rolling 4 dice to see what you get for an attune.
So we're gonna call that desperate and standard.
Standard.
And +2.
Yep. Okay. So 2, 2, 4, 5. Now the good.
See, my problem is that like it covers up my thing, so I don't see what you see what I rolled before I do.
Oh, yeah. Now, I mean, the good news there is that your good dice came from the ones that you added. So
yeah, it would have been really bad if I just rolled my 2.
A couple of 2s would have been probably pretty bad. Okay, so 2, 4, 5. I'm gonna look at something here real quick while I'm looking at this. But so we're gonna fill up the thing. Where's my little? I'm gonna fill up that clock. Now I should have said, and I should have asked it just to clarity. Are we making the station tastier, or are we? I think you said you liked the idea of the memento, but I mean, from a flashback point of view, there's 2 ways that could go. So I want to make sure, because it is a memento. I don't want to just automatically say, hey, this is a done deal. It could have been a memento that you left on the station, or it could be one that's back in your hammock, back in the ship. And, we see the flashback of, and I'd want to see that. I actually would like, one way or the other, I want to know what this thing is, because we haven't seen it before, and now we're suddenly using it. So, but it could be on the ship, and you can use it to sort of make things quiet. It really works either way, so it's just a question of, and that way you're not leaving it behind.
Okay. So I actually picture it as something in my pocket.
Oh, like you've got with you.
Does that work?
Yeah, you can pull it out like a worry stone kind of a thing and sort of fiddle with it.
Exactly. That was the word, actually, one of the words I was going to use to describe it. So this is actually something I've kept with me since I was a kid. And it's like the first piece of ancient that I found. And, it was at, how kids go on field trips,
Mhm.
And so it was sort of one of those, like, we're going to go visit the ruins on, in this zone here, and kind of, everyone's tromping around, and it's sort of the equivalent of finding the arrowhead, in terms of, their, what I picked up, I thought was, I thought it was really cool as a kid, and then as an adult, I thought, yeah, it's pretty common. It's if you've ever done fossils, there's certain fossils which
Sure, but it's still
can't swing a dead cat without hitting, kind of a thing. So, so what what the piece is it's really just a bit of stone, and it a little bit like a trilobite,
Okay.
in shape. Um, it's pretty dinged up. Um, Even more so because it's been pretty much living in my pocket for the last 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's just one of those things that's sort of been my good luck charm, and sort of kind of a touchstone. And so as we're kind of feeling the monster come and looking at the flare of the engines, I casually put my hand, unaware, I put my hand into my pocket and feel it, and that's when I get the idea that maybe I can't, maybe I can do something,
Okay.
use this as a focus to what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. I like it. Just looking at a thing
By the
here.
way, Monster thinks it smells good.
Smells very nice.
Because
All
I don't think it
right.
smells like anything.
Okay. All right. So what we're going to do now, again, this is a thing that can be resisted, but the offshoot of the four, getting sort of a 4 or 5 on a desperate roll in this case. So you actually, as you kind of open up your mind to the way and say, well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to, maybe I can, you're still actually honestly considering your options as you're kind of opening up your mind to the way. Do I make this, do I try to attract to the station? Do I try to make the ship quieter? What, all this other kind of stuff. And as you're opening it up, you realize that you've opened yourself to the way before. And you open yourself to a tune, and even at like a dig site or something like that, there's a sense of there's you and all these little firefly lights of other way things around, whether it be urbots or precursor technology, or sometimes even other people, or critters, things like that. Okay, you open your mind in space, and the space feels wrong. Not wrong, it feels wrong's not quite the right word. The space feels different than it should. Okay, because there's places where you should be getting little fireflies lights, and you're not getting that. You're not getting those sorts of things with a lot of empty space around you. You're getting a feeling of being inside of a warm, hazy cloud. And you realize, as you're opening up to this and kind of being pulled out into this, that this sort of weird nebulous sort of haze, it's like opening your eyes and realize you're standing in the palm of something else that's holding you. So you're not opening up into space and reaching out for the way. You're already in the mind of something so much bigger than yours that you can't see the edges of it. It's coming closer, but for you, that's just a relative thing. That's like, you're floating in space inside of something that is moving, but it doesn't really matter because that's just going to move you a little bit closer to the center of the thing. You're in it. And you are being regarded in some fashion by it. Now, it's not maybe by your term sentient, but it's so big. And it's so... Whale song is terrifying when you're in the water next to it. And you're able to say either not us, not that, please don't eat that, or you can say that thing over there. And it's not even so much like you're not tuning down the ship or tuning up the station. You're just directing this as much as possible to kind of like wave it a certain direction. And that's going to work. but in the process you're exposed, not even exposed, you are inside this preposterous mind. And the upshot of that is a level 2 harm, where, on the scale, level 1s are like sprained ankle, level 2 is like a deep cut on your thigh, level 3 is like a broken leg. So a level 2 harm, and I am going to write, look at your character sheet here real quick. Harm, let's say...
Oh, is this something I can resist, or is this
Yes.
something? Okay.
Is this something, if it's not resisted, I can then patch?
Yes. Well, treat. Because it's not a
I-
physical thing. So the harm that you're taking, and it's longer than it's going to be easily readable on the sheet, is the howling unknowable voices of the black. And what that's going to do is give you a -1 dice on any actions where having the howling unknowable voices of the black in your mind would interfere. In some cases it wouldn't. In other cases it will. So yeah, but in this case, son, your treatments would be more
Psychotropic?
pharmaceutical.
Sun has a special ability though.
Yeah.
I asked because I have an ability.
Oh yeah, cool. And yes, Marge, you can resist it. It would move it down to a level 1 harm, which would what that does, rather than giving you the dice penalty, is the effect of it basically is when it applies, your effect is reduced. So it's more of a, it's a sprained ankle kind of level of distraction. So you can resist with that, and you would resist with your resolve, and basically, so risk here. I just want to point this out. You can take this, and Sun can probably treat it. Your risk of resistance at this point is you're trading the harm that you're getting for stress, and you're really close to capping out. And if you don't roll well on your resolve, you'll end up taking enough stress that would actually end up giving you trauma, which is some sort of permanent thing you're carrying around in your head. So
So probably just,
But trauma's an extra XP trigger.
So I'm just gonna pause here for a second because I need to share it. Mike, thank you for providing this perfect example of what I'm about to share. I need to share something that the girls in the Masks game said a little bit said this weekend, because they were talking about they were diving into something potentially traumatic kind of thing, and say, I want to be like Adam in this, says the Nova. And I'm like, in what way? She's not like the character, like specifically, but just the way that you just kind of look at those situations and say, I'm not explaining it very well. And Kaylee says, without so much as pausing, I want to be so broken that everyone around me can cut themselves on the sharp edges. And I'm like, wow, okay. So I'm just saying, like the Mike's thing of like, yes, it's trauma, but it's also XP, is you're not exactly proving them wrong when you say when you say the thing. So Margie, I mean, if you look at your character sheet, you see the trauma. Like if you pick up, am I saying this right? Yeah, you can pick up like 4 trauma. So if your stress caps out, it resets to 0. You pick up a little trauma chit, and you pick up one of those basically role-playing keys. And if the trauma, it's one of the XP keys down at the bottom. If you had to deal with trauma drama during the session, then it's an XP tick kind of a thing. But it's a question of, they're not to be got rid of very easily. They become like even if you wanted to get rid of them, I think they're sort of like long-term project kind of thing. So it's a risky thing. Whereas
No, they're permanent.
Yeah, are they permanent? Yeah, I don't need.
Yes, the only thing you can do is you can pick up a 5th trauma box.
Yeah.
Good.
So that's whereas you have a harm and you get Sun to treat it, and maybe that's better than. I mean, I would absolutely say resist the stress if it looks like you've got a decent chance of rolling it.
The
but
other part, is also, as soon as you try them out, you're out for the rest of the mission.
Yeah, which is no fun. You know that that's no fun. So I wouldn't necessarily go that route. I would say it'd be better to just deal with the screaming in your mind than try to resist it down. You certainly could.
But you could roll a 6.
Yeah, Mike. Yeah, you could roll a 6 and do the resistances, but Sun's got an ability and he can deal with that in the ship once you're calmed down. Mike's leaping right into that thing saying, I'm going to take it, I'm going to risk it, and I'm going to do the thing because he's sitting there going, I want trauma. Because again, broken edges that everybody around him can cut themselves on.
It's extra XP.
Just my... I don't think, I mean, what you're saying is true, but I think...
Charisma of 2. Yeah, but...
What you're saying is true, Mike. I don't necessarily think that invalidates Kayleigh's assessment of the situation either. I think that they can both be true. Enjoy the drama, but also enjoy that rich XP fountain. They can both be true. What do you think, Margie? What is your thought on that?
Well, since we were on our first mission, I don't think I want to
pick up the trauma necessarily.
I don't know that I want to add a level of complexity, to be honest.
And honestly, it's a little bit of a gift to James because then Sun actually gets to do the thing the character is for, in part, and that's kind of good too. So for now, the howling, unknowable.
I get to share my gibbering madness.
Yes,
with
howling,
him.
unknowable voices of the black in your mind, as you kind of exposed to this thing. So I don't know. It's not unlike, I mean, mentally speaking, it's like that big deep cut on the thigh kind of thing. So do you scream? Do you gibber? Do you start reciting a catechism? What is your reaction as the bubble is kind of tumbling into the cargo bay of the ship?
Why is it the first line that comes to mind is, there's a hole in your mind.
Yeah.
There's a hole in the thing. We need to patch it quick.
I actually think his first thing is going to be for the first, say, 5 to 10 minutes. It's going to be a waking coma. Eyes, fixed and dilated. I'm breathing okay. I don't have signs of physical trauma, but the lights are on and nobody's home.
Okay. All right.
I'm not collapsed. So if they point me in a direction and tell me to walk someplace or, lead me someplace, I can go there. But
something is back by the station, but it's really hard to make out. And also, you're inside of a plastic bubble and tumbling and entering the ship. Something is back at the station. I'm just telling this for everybody else. It's mostly visible in terms of where the light should be and isn't. So it's quite difficult to make out really what it is. Whatever it is big. And seems to be intersecting with the station at multiple points. I don't know. Monster, you might have the best. There's a kind of tree octopus that if it was the size of a bus or a spaceship, you could imagine interfering with the lights on the station in the same places, in the same kind of way from back on your home planet. But I don't know, honestly, that many other people would even have a point of reference to even say this is what it kind of reminded me of. And again, caught in a glimpse, something big seems to be on the station. And not in the sense of we have debarked and are looking for the nearest bar on the station, literally on it. And that's as you're tumbling into the ship. Okay, so on the ship. Warning lights are blaring. Some sort of overload reset thing. There's a automated, on Firefly when in the Out of Gas episode where there's the warnings in English and then Chinese for you have 6 minutes of air left, but it's that kind of a thing. It's like, engine overload, reset protocol in, protective reset, enacted, that kind of a deal. Who does what, where, how?
I would like to see actually a group action.
Okay.
Not only because I want everyone to feel like they're helping us get out of here, but also I want to see if that list of grand shipboard actions that I posted a while back actually holds up. So what I would like to see is if anybody and everybody who feels like contributing somehow, pick the ability that you want to contribute with, and then
you'll lead a group action.
Yeah.
Okay, I like it. So
I'm also going to say that a classic Doctor who had the greatest retcon of all time for an alarm like this, where the Doctor tells his companion, "Yeah, in case of grand emergency, the TARDIS locks onto the nearest spaceship and materializes." And she's like, "Why didn't you tell me about that before?" He's like, "It never worked before."
That's anyway, I love the way they handle continuity with that show. I really do. And that actually may be one of my pitches somewhere down the road, because I backed the Kickstarter for Girl Interrupted, which is sort of an Alice in Wonderland or
Girl Underground.
Girl Underground, and it's sort of like Alice in Wonderland or Labyrinth kind of thing, where there's like the girl who's going on and everybody plays her companions, and the girl is the only one with the stats, but the companion, the companions sort of like lead to insight that lets the girl get better kind of thing, but it's the girl's skills and stats and abilities and stuff that you roll. And I want to reskin that for a Doctor Who companion thing so bad. Where the girl is the Doctor, and the central character is the Doctor, and it's the companions though that are sort of enacting the world. So some of the time you play the companion, some of the time you're playing the central character. I want to do it. I feel like it would be just a dead obvious Doctor Who skin. All right, so
a lot of people have recommended it for that exact thing.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm not the only one that it occurred to. I'm honestly, well, I suppose they probably couldn't do it as a stretch goal because they can't. Okay, so I think, and I have no problem with not doing it this way, but I think typically the group actions are like everybody's rolling the same thing, but I don't really care about that because, to your point, you've written up this good thing. Could you provide the link to?
It's in Roll20 already.
It's in Roll20. Yay. Bill's provided a link to sort of the ways, the grand list of shipboard actions for helping out with various skills for, when you're doing ship stuff. Okay. Obviously,
and it need not be group action specifically. I'm just saying like a group effort of some kind.
I like the idea of the group effort. I think it's kind of fun. We might as well use that. We haven't used that in the past. Or we've only used it once in the past, so it's kind of a neat idea. Now, for those of you who don't recall, this is Drifter's leading it. Everybody rolls a thing. All of the highest die is sort of cumulatively what we end up with. Is it? Mike, remind me. Does
all the dice pool together?
All the dice pool together. So if you get like at some point, if there's a couple of sixes, it's very easy to crit. Anybody who gets a 3, 2, or 1, Drifter will take a stress for that. Kind of coordinating the whole thing. So Drifter will be doing Helm. I'm just sort of saying Drifter will be doing Helm. So take a look at that sheet that Bill has written up for the various kinds of things. I'm literally fine with anything, except for probably scrap. But
what is it we're trying to do here?
So the ship has been manhandled a bit in its thing, and you've got some systems that have reset, and basically things need to be got back in order to get the hell out of Dodge. So whether that's rigging, whether that's scrambling just to like be tearing up through access hatchways and stuff and shoving various breakers back into position, attune rolls. Margie, just throw another attune in there.
At -1. Thank you. Love it.
A command just to
I actually first thought of that. I'm like, oh no, wait, no, we don't want to do that right now.
Well, no, it wouldn't. Yeah, sorry. At a -1, we are rolling 1 dice. A command for somebody to sit on the bridge and sort of like listen to drifters muttering and like interpret that and shout like instructions back over. Just basically to coordinate everybody. Any of this stuff, whatever it happens to be. Rig, doctor, if like we're gonna get out of here real fast, having Sun go racing around, but he's got rig too, so that's fine. But having doctor to go racing around and inject people with the, hey, we're gonna be in the acceleration couches real soon here. So this is the.
There's another use of doctor which I kind of touched on, but I want to explain a little more. There can be an implicit action where somebody says, I think I'm going to take damage as a result of doing this, and then the way the doctor helps with that, with the overall roll is, and I'm on hand to patch that damage up.
Right. Or you're applying doctor in the scientist sense, and it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna reset the polarity flow in the neutron matrix. There's actually, I found some game I was looking at not that long ago was like this whole like a table of repair actions I'm going to take, and you roll 3 different columns and get the action, modifier, and like weird part.
That's the Firefly RPG that Mike posted the table from.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And just it's just it's a lovely little combination of stuff. So all I really care about is for you guys to say, I'm gonna kind of like I'm gonna roll this, and this is how I'm helping. Whether it's it's Monster going back into the engine room and lifting all the heavy stuff, or shoving non-powered panels out of the way so other people can get the stuff, or
actually I'm liking your idea with the command of
okay,
since the comms have been knocked out on the ship,
shouting,
it takes with a really loud voice to pass on drifters' instructions from the bridge.
So you're kind of in the hatch at the cockpit, like listening to him muttering, turning around, it's like, it's time to, oh, I love that. You've got a voice that gets noticed on a battlefield. So yeah, that's good stuff. I like that. So we've got command from Monster, and Margie, you're free. If you're so inclined, you can feel free to say, actually, I'm just gonna sit here in the cargo bay on this nice comfortable crate and not do anything.
I think I kind of already stated that I was kind of inactive for a period of time.
That's fair.
And the best stat is sway, which, since we're not really talking to anybody,
yeah,
as useful. So maybe I'll just stay in my little coma and try and be out of the way.
It's hard to be convincing and charming when you've got like the unknowing voice of the abyss, like moaning, whale songing in your head anyway.
We don't want you to be charming and convincing while the voice of the abyss is talking in your head.
Oh, that's so good.
I think part of it...
Fly into the shadow drifter. That's what we need to do.
So, Sun.
I mean, other than using sway as cheerleading others, on board the ship, I'm not sure that
don't worry
I'm
about
currently in a position to help.
That's just as well. That's just as well. So, Sun, you can use doctor in the scientific sense. You can use doctor as the doctor sense. You could do rig. It's entirely up to you.
Well, I was thinking I either do rig or basically do doctor in the sense of I'm going to put a giant bandage on the engine.
Well, that's sort of
Science
using that's you're going to science the shit out of it, to quote Mars, or the Martian. And that's, using doctor also covers science. So applying your scientific knowledge, it's like, I reversed the polarity flow, so the reset should actually act as a reboot, kind of thing. Perfect. Yes, do that. Armin?
Lower the tachyon fields.
Yeah, lower the tachyon fields. Increase the tachyon fields. Do something with the tachyon.
Please.
Tetrion fields. We're not barbarians. Armin?
Well, I was going to pep talk Kay in order to get them doing stuff, but
Yeah, she's got 1,000-kilometer stare right now.
Coincidentally, that's how far away it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh wait, now it's a 900-yard stare.
What?
Or
What?
900-kilometer stare.
Now it's 800. Why can it be? It couldn't possibly be closing that fast.
That's horrible. All right. So,
Hack also works too. Just to make sure that you're like, you don't want the stations like automatic monitoring systems to pick up what's going to become a super identifiable drive signature in about 10 seconds. So there's that, like sort of using comms, like that was one of the things I really liked about Diaspora, because the comm station was also like the electronic warfare station. The electronic, they do it in the Expanse as well, where like the comms person is also the person who's dealing with sort of electronic warfare and generating sort of electronic chaff and scrambling missiles and all of that kind of stuff. So that's certainly a way that would make sense to help if you're so inclined, because you have hack. So
well, I was thinking, you know, going into the cargo bay, seeing some of the damage that's done, and just being like, no, we're good, it's fine.
And using, is that sway?
Yes,
And
just like they probably would not be getting out of here as fast as possible, knowing that this is here. But it's like, no, we'll be fine.
We're gonna be fine. We're gonna be fine. It'll be fine. All right.
We'll be great.
That's fine. Yeah, I'm going to help by lying to the crew.
Yes.
Okay, sure.
Everything is great. No, we're perfectly fine.
We're all fine
How are
down
you?
here. How are you?
All right. So everybody who's helping, roll your thing, and we'll just sort it out from there.
Risky standard, I'm gonna guess.
I'm gonna say yes, definitely risky standard. I'm not gonna do any kind of complications there with that. Doctor with the 4. That's a success. Mike is causing drifter stress.
No one believes your lies.
Monster is causing drifter stress.
Monster doesn't believe your lies and will not repeat them.
Also, he keeps shouting, and he's shouting.
Are you lying to us?
Why would I lie?
He's shouting loud. He's shouting loud enough to carry through the ship. Unfortunately, he's really close to you, so that's not super helpful. And of course, we have Drifter himself to do the roll. And if you want, you can throw a dice from the Gambit pool. We still have one left, I think. Kay didn't get one back, but there's still at least one left to spend if you're so.
I'm going to use the Gambit, and just to make things even more fun, I would like to propose a devil's bargain.
Do you have one?
That part that Armin said not to worry about, that's going to detach and float along with the space station. So when people come and investigate, they're going to find it.
Something's gonna come loose off the
Increase heat.
ship. Yeah, we're gonna increase heat. I love that. I think that's great. Do we need that piece? That never mind. It'll be fine.
So thank you for that, Mike.
That panel was never there.
So is this risky standard or what is this?
Yeah, risky standard. Devil's bargain dice, the Gambit dice. So you should be rolling what, 5?
And I need it all of them.
Oh wow, man, the dice are like nobody will get 6s tonight. All right, so that is
11 dice, no 6 or
That-
5.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Wow, that is crazy.
That's how statistics work.
That's how
This
statistics.
was my greatest idea of all time, you guys. I'm
love it.
really glad we rolled this. Thanks.
I love. No, it's great. I love that we got to use all of your skills together. I don't know if you're being sarcastic or not, but I think it's great.
I'm actually really, really enjoying the fact that we got to use this. So
Yes,
that part is fine. But the dice are like, really?
the dice are. Yeah,
Tell me
the
about
dice
it.
are absolutely screwed. I mean, there was a
Better
point,
than when we were all trying to be sneaky.
wasn't like the only person who got a success on that in the entire thing, Armin, and who's the one person who didn't have the skill.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. At least the person with the skill. Well, no, you guys all had a skill. That was the thing, is I didn't even make you guys roll helm.
Yeah.
And I
No,
want to cap this off with
the one person who was actually doing something that was helping.
The doctor. Yeah. You're right.
Uh,
I mean, Monsters thing was.
we were just yelling at each other.
You just sit down. You're yelling, "No, we're all good down here," and Monster's like, "No, we're not."
Armin! He says that there's a warning from the airlock. You need to clear the. And it's like there's a whole bunch of crap back there, and you just cycle the airlock door, the outer one, and just let the stuff float out. It's fixed. Why don't I believe you, Armin? I said it was fixed, but I don't. Yeah, Drifter's like, oh my god, we're just gonna. Yeah.
Oh no, he's like, we're gonna hear a sound through the entire ship, the sound that we've never heard before. We don't know what it is, and Armin's gonna look, or somebody nearby is gonna look at Drifter, and be like, "What was that?" And Drifter's like, "That was the sound of us getting away," and he will hit the drive.
That was.
It's like Armin comes up to the cockpit a little bit later. He's just like, "So, Drifter, there was a panel, and it's not there anymore. It didn't look important."
Strictly speaking, less mass on a vehicle given the same amount of thrust means more speed.
I said, it's not important.
I'm impressed that Drifters managed to pick up that much stress, but I suppose that's over the course of like several of these missions. I wanted to, did you add your stress that you just picked up from
I did, yeah. This is accounting for all that.
Everyone's help? I feel like should always be in air quotes.
I'm a big fan of building up.
I didn't help.
Yeah.
I like building up exactly 6 stress so that I can indulge vice and it doesn't matter what I do.
Yeah. That's a good it's a good space to be in.
Let me tell you about 8 stress.
Okay.
You're not worried about anything at that point.
Yeah, it's like please.
Except for the next stress.
How much can I indulge it? Okay.
No, I can take one more. It's when I don't have any boxes left. That's when I worry.
Yeah.
And Doyce, I want to offer you a 4 as well, 4 result as well here for you.
A 4 result? Oh, yeah. I should probably have done that. Yeah.
So we took the devil's bargain previously, so we might be tracked, but maybe it doesn't matter that we're going to be tracked because earlier Kay was interested in this whole, hey, how do we follow way creatures thing? And we started plotting some simulations. Those simulations are what the drive engaged on.
Ooh.
Like, I kind of want to move that plot forward a little bit, and this is the way to do it. Like, it gets us away from the space station.
And you're like plotting the way creatures and stuff like that. So you get out. Okay, let me just look at.
What's the way creatures? I was trying to, connect to other way artifacts, but I like the idea of how that goes wrong.
But we had pointed out that the way creatures were attracted to those artifacts, and it seemed logical to track them as a way to get to them. That was the gist of my earlier. Right.
No, yeah, I'm down with that. And by all means, guys, throw these ideas out because it all makes sense to me, and more ideas kicking out is always good. So we were risky. Had a 4. Let's look at it. The reason I'm I'm just looking at some examples of some 4 or 5 so I get a general idea of like scale.
Like, whatever the book says is appropriate. I feel personally that this would be appropriate.
Yeah, well, no, I'm fine with that. I just want to know, because the thing is, if you end up like tracking way creatures or using those sort of sensor readings to target, that's fine. I'm just like, and that means that this happens is where I'm like, because. Okay. Yeah.
Bill?
Yeah.
That may be a typo, but I enjoy we accidentally some of the ship behind.
Where is that? What are you looking at?
Oh, in Bill's notes.
Accidentally, some of this ship behind.
Accidentally some of the ship behind.
The accidentally a word. I love it. eh. Okay. I gotta look at the ship thing. Because I think what I'm looking at with that is saying, okay, well that makes sense to me, but what does that mean in terms of like sort of what happens? Because if you guys end up in a swarm of like space man arrays or something like that, because you sort of target out in the middle of nowhere, then are you suddenly dealing with way lampreys or Minox? Minox chewing on the power cables. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like what are the immediate next
Like
consequences?
it totally makes exactly. That targeting that to get the hell out of here. We need a destination. That's totally cool. You pick up the stream and
Well, I mean, there's two possibilities. One is it's a moment where we make some more rolls, but we also get a bunch of discovery and info dumped on us.
right.
Or two, it's a moment where Kay in particular as a character, and then anybody who wants to support him gets to go either confront or cope or whatever with this particular phenomenon.
Yeah.
So either in general it's just an excuse for a couple more rolls and more information about the way, or it's following on with this harm that was done. But I would leave that up to Margie as far as what she would prefer if she thinks that is interesting.
I think
You could also use it to inform our entanglements roll.
Yeah, I think that might make the most sense. Okay, so you're hanging
No,
off.
I'm not familiar enough with that to have suggested that. I'm sorry.
No, but what you said is actually sort of that same thing in just a slightly different way. We're going to continue. So what I'm going to have you, so the way I always, and I do like this, I've decided after some time, I really do like the idea that, the hyperdrive does two things, lets you use the gates, but it also sort of like lets you open the sail and catch the way line, so it's sort of opening the hyper sail to move, and you're right there. So sweeping that in there, what the pattern that the ship is using is sort of a, for lack of a better word, sort of an energy signature that's interacting with the way lines, based on some of Marjorie's reading or something like that are maybe more attuned to the way, or more, put in an ocean kind of sense. You're sort of luminescing in a way that's notable. The first thing that you notice about this is you're getting actually sort of and I'm not going to look the critter up, but there's a sort of a space man array, somewhere between a man array and a Minoc, and you're sailing along through the way line, this dark way line, and you're catching. You're kind of like find yourself flying in a pod of these things. If that makes sense. Not that. Oh my God. Although a slightly less terrifying version of that for around the space station, possibly yes. How to train your dragon.
How to Train Your Monster.
Lightning ray. There was one of the crit. Oh, this. Yeah, there you go. Kind of. Close enough. It'll give you the general idea. Is that? Yeah. All right. View image. Something kind of like. I don't know if this link's gonna work right, but I don't know if that's gonna work right. But give it a shot. Kind of like that, but yeah, exactly. I mean, James, the GIF is exactly like that, but kind of like that, but without like the visible head face kind of thing, where those are more like sort of sensory pods, certainly, but something like those kind of things sort of in space. And there's like a pod of those things that you're sort of sailing along with as we roll along through everything. Son, did you have something you wanted to do with Kay to help her out before we get into the sort of after, like the entanglements and the after the mission stuff? Because
Drugs?
drugs, please.
I
Please,
mean,
drugs.
yeah, I have a skill that you may doctor someone during a job to allow them to ignore the effects of a harm penalty.
I think that is definitely what you do. You have to roll anything for that, or it's just something you can do?
I don't know. It's an ability, so.
Well,
It would be a doctor roll, because there's different ways you can deal with the penalties and stuff like that. But I don't necessarily need you to roll on it because we're sort of done with the mission part. But you could certainly treat Kay's immediate mental trauma with like a
that's a downtime action.
no, I mean just in terms of like, you know, take two of these Valium and, just don't call me. Just crawl into a hammock, take these two Valium and we'll talk more later kind of thing. I'm not saying, yeah, actually treating the harm is, yeah, definitely a downtime action. I'm just saying that for the purposes of color, we can see Sun getting her someplace comfortable, whether that's the galley, whether that's a hammock or something like that, giving her a shot or giving her some pills to take or something like that so that she can just calm down, maybe drift off, that kind of thing. And we'll deal with the actual treatment of it down the road. So I'm looking at the downtime stuff, and it looks like what I would kind of want to do is maybe rearrange the order of things and just deal with the entanglements now. I kind of want to do this in a slightly different order, and I'm saying this primarily to Mike because everyone else is like, sure, whatever. Just to see what there is to deal with in terms of the entanglements. After payoff and heat determine generates entanglement for the crew using the list below.
Assuming we're already paid?
Yeah, well, it happens later is the thing. And you know what? I'm just going to let it happen in the order that it's supposed to happen in. So what I'm going to, my question then, I guess, for Drifter is when you see this pod flying alongside the ship, this is a 4 result. I will make sure that it is ultimately a 4 result. But when you see this pod flying along the side of the ship, what do you do? I mean, is it record it and show it to Kay later? Go roust her out of a hammock so she can see, what the ship's activity had in terms of like a response from wave creatures. Take some notes. Like what do you do then when that happens as you're basically getting away?
I would probably put the call out to her, and Son will probably hear that if he's treating her. But
Under
he'd probably
pain
have
of death.
a recording on it. He'd want to see this too because this is gorgeous.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's not going to pull himself away from this, but he'll definitely make recordings of it and try to get any interested parties up here to take a look at it live.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So whether or not Kay comes up, and Sun may not because Sun's sort of taking care of Kay, the call kind of goes out as like, you guys should see this kind of thing where you guys can see these creatures. Now, this will be a kind of a thing where, the next episode you go back and going, oh, that's why they were foul. Oh, that's probably not great for them long term, kind of a thing. But for right now, it's awesome. So we will the next scene is getting paid. This came to us through our barkeep, right? Is that did I get that to remember that? Oh no, it wasn't. It was through Kay,
No.
like
Kay.
a series of drunken interactions in the bar and people talking about various jobs and sort of reaching out that way, right? Okay.
Precursor to my taking the level up die check.
Right. So that the payoff is let me grab the map. The meetup pay up drop kind of thing is going to be back in Rin at SB 176, which is one of the it's a guild owned station, very lawful, very orderly, very clean, but also not some place where usually people are expecting criminal dead drops kind of thing. Who's making like sort of the handoff thing? Everybody? One person? Two people?
I think it's myself, maybe Monster.
I think Drifter's going to be back at the ship, just putting in more time on repairs.
Yeah, that probably makes sense.
Yeah, Monster will go along.
Okay, so Monster, Kay, Armin, do you have any interest in that?
Not as long as the money gets back.
Okay, all right. Okay, so yeah, the transfer is displayed on a screen. A little handheld terminal. You see it register on your terminal, or rather, like somebody back at the ship will ping and say, "Yep, we got it," kind of a deal. And we will grab the ship sheet real quick and get the cred. Now, what happened? We got paid 6 cred. Can it sit at 6 cred right now until, or does 2 immediately drop into the vault?
It's until the end of downtime.
All right, and then whatever's left is figured out. All right, cool. All right, so 6 cred pay. They're very grateful. They're not. I don't know. The interaction feels a little bit off, Kay. Not anything bad. They're not trying to double cross you. It's just something about it feels a little bit off. But honestly, you're still you've got like the worst case of spacer's migraine that you can imagine having right now, and it's just not the easiest thing in the world to really get your head around what feels weird there. But they seem quite happy.
I mean, is it sort of like they didn't expect us to come through, or just?
Honestly, I would say give me a study roll. Just straight up. unless you want to throw. I mean,
I think straight up is probably what we want to
you
do
can
right
take
now.
an extra. I tell you what, my devil's bargain to give you an extra dice. My devil's bargain is they're gonna know that you think something is a little bit off with them. If you want an extra dice to give you 2.
So they're going to know what?
They're gonna know that the way you're acting is they're gonna know that you think something is a little bit off with them. Because you're kind of like just trying to you're studying them. You're paying closer attention to them than
Okay.
their kind of thing. If you want the dice, that's the devil's bargain is they will know that. They will know that.
Oh, I don't want the dice.
All right. There you go. All right.
So risky.
This is controlled standard. Because the fallout from this is not particularly high. Which is good. Because yeah, no, your head is just throbbing. There something you just can't put your finger on it. And you do catch though while you're kind of looking at them and just kind of there's a little bit of like a smirk. Like they just they learn, you peering at them tells them more about you than you're learning about them. They're not the enemy in this case, so the fallout from this is a little bit less, and again controlled. So again, the fallout's not that big of a deal. No, you don't get XP on bad rolls, James. If only. Okay, so that's the payment thing. Upkeep. Ship parts wear out. There's fuel and repair costs, minor patch jobs, blah, blah, blah. Upkeep for the ship is calculated as follows. Upkeep equals the system quality plus the crew quality divided by 4, which we've already kind of calculated out as a 1. So for the purposes of paying upkeep, it's 1 cred off the total. I see somebody has already popped that right back off of there. So looks like that's getting paid. Outcomes. The roll doesn't guarantee. Okay. Oh, that's outcomes for if you don't do the upkeep. So I don't need to worry about any of that stuff. Heat. Procyon is full of anything to do might be witnessed. There's always evidence left behind. To reflect this, your crew acquires heat as they commit crimes. This represents the amount of pressure the local system police and law authorities can bring down on the characters. After a job or conflict with the opponent, your crew takes heat according to how the job played out. Completely quiet. No. Smooth and quiet? I mean, if you were me, or if you were us, would you put it at contained, standard exposure, or loud and chaotic?
We had a couple of forward type results where we explicitly said people are going to notice. So
well,
I would go high.
I would say
maybe not immediately, but
I would say contained just because it was a hidden space station.
That's fair.
But then we have all those other things to increase it from there.
I think that's mostly like I'm mostly asking to say where did we start? Where are we starting from? If we start from contained. You're right. It is a hidden station. So even if word gets out, it's getting out through certain channels. How much can the StarSmiths really say about what happened when it's a black station in the first place? They're gonna be upset, and they might put word out. Okay, so it's still gonna end up being a total of 4 heat because there were 2 heat things that I have marked here. One was recent, and then there was another bit when you guys were getting into the station that would have resulted in it. So between I kind of feel, I didn't have that as a consequence, but I feel like sicking a gigantic mine the size of a moon space squid on the station probably should generate more heat, but that isn't what I said.
No, I don't know. I mean, it sounds like they were kind of like trying to prevent something like that from happening. So, maybe, they're expecting to be attacked.
Yeah, I mean,
So, What system was this?
This was Holt. The heat's in Holt.
Haha. We didn't have any heat there.
No, you didn't have any heat there. It was not in Rin, which is where you are right now. You didn't damage a hyperspace lane or a system gate. There's a point at which you could say, maybe public use of artifacts or massive property damage, but again, not a public place, so some of that's going to be contained. But still, 4 heat in the Holt system, which is fine. Your wanted level is not an issue. We're getting pretty close. Entanglements. Your character and crew did blah 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 blah, and that's me rolling a fortune die. I think it's just 1 fortune die, right? Yeah.
0 fortune die. I believe. Oh,
Well, I roll on the 0 table, but I still roll a die, don't I? Entanglements, right? An entanglement might be a rival crew, blah, blah, blah. After pad and heat determined, generates an
I'll
entanglement.
roll 1 die.
Yeah. It's just
Okay.
Yeah. Number of dice. Uno. Submit. And I look on the table for wanted level 1. Wanted level 0 rather, which is a 3. New friends. I might shift this, and this might be back to the a neutral faction asks you to do a job that is either dangerous, pays little, or gathers more heat than usual. I don't love that, partly because Kay's already put us in a situation where her friend, the smuggler, has a job waiting for you guys. But I do like it because I'm thinking about using the Unquiet Black again because of the whole thing with the way creatures. But we can get to that next session when you guys get back out into space.
So,
Yeah. Speak up.
another good thing.
Mm-hmm.
We're now at status 1 with the Cobalt Syndicate.
Yes.
Because we did 1 job with them. We were at 0 status before, so now we're at 1.
Yeah, except you're not. Hang on a sec. Where's the ship? Oh, there we go. No? Wait. No, I want factions, don't I? Systems and factions. Let's look at that real quick. Character sheet, systems and factions. So the hegemony, we need to add, I need to put in StarSmiths.
Yep.
Smiths Guild. And they're level 3? I think so. And
Level 3.
they're at a -1. But that didn't end up. The Cobalt Syndicate didn't end up going up. I need a signal for a question mark there.
Mm-hmm.
That actually. How many? So if you go from one tier to the next, like if you're at tier 1 and you're going to tier 2, you need to do like 2 jobs to get from a 1 to a 2, right? Is that
From
right?
1 to 2?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So 2 more jobs.
Yeah. So this is meta level stuff, but the job count that actually just ticked up was the Cult of the Seekers. Pretending to be the Cobalt Syndicate. Because they and the word is that you guys did the job with the Cobalt Syndicate. But what actually happened in terms of what different people think about your thing is that the Cobalt thing is like, I don't know what you're talking about, and who the hell are those guys? And meanwhile, the Cult of the Seekers are like, perfect. Which isn't something that you guys necessarily know about, but is definitely a thing. So yeah, the Cobalt Syndicate hired you guys to do something against the StarSmith Guild, which is weird on a number of different levels because those guys are actually allies. So there's things going on there. So that's a meta level knowledge kind of a deal. Hooray for you. And We'll leave that where it is. And I'm going to actually deal with the entanglements a little bit later. I'm going to come back to that or figure it out later. And that's just downtime, I think, after that, right? Entanglements and then downtime. I'll, because we're going to do but we're on station and we can deal with downtime type stuff. We're not going to deal with it right now because it's 10:30. But we can jump right in and do downtime and figure out what all weird stuff is happening in Ren, and also have the entanglement rear its so downtime, entanglement rears its ugly head, and Margie made a deal with the smuggler that is probably going to be in touch with you guys now that you're back in station. There's 5 cred. I'll leave the cred where it is because it still sits there until the end of downtime. So we've got 5 cred sitting in the ship. The ship has been maintenanced, but it's still got some damage to because the deal with the rigging, like to get it going for the short term, that doesn't actually get rid of the engine, like the hull damage. Yeah, is that right?
We resisted the hull damage with a roll.
Oh, right, the engine's damage. That
I feel the rig was really more just to get the jump drive module back online. There's probably still systemic damage that must be addressed over long term and in some kind of space.
I'll read up on all that stuff and take a look at what's required for the kind of ship damage and stuff like that. So we'll be downtime, entanglements, and rolling into whatever comes next when we start up next. Does that sound good?
Yay.
Let's roll around real quick and look at yes.
Hey, Doyce?
Yes.
So the repair is a downtime action, and it's 1 cred to repair 1 level of damage.
Okay. So we'll keep that in our back pocket as a thing that we probably need to do. I want to see what the in the midst of things patch job, what effect, if any, that necessarily has on anything, or is that maybe just to re-online the jump drive or whatever? And that's probably what it is, and that's how we played it, so it doesn't really matter anyway. XP for the ship. Execute a successful transfer or smuggling operation. I'm going to say yes. Seems successful. Contend with challenges above your current station. Margie's saying there, yes. My screaming brain says yes.
Squids
No,
are
I'm
well
like
above our current situation.
because of we were operating, when like on the lock and stuff, that was way above our.
Well, that was
pay grade.
I gave you the XP for that on the last one. Actually, I don't.
Oh, last time. Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
you're right.
I don't think I had you guys rolling against higher tier stuff this time, so I probably won't count that one. But I am going to. So execute a successful transfer. Check that one. Bolster your crew's reputation or develop a new one. Yeah, you guys are doing weird stuff, so that definitely bolsters that. Express the goals, drives, inner conflict, or essential nature of the crew. I would say yes. So we're 1 away from a playbook advancement on the ship again. Hooray.
I'd argue for 2 on that one.
On which?
Inner conflict.
Monster and Armin yelling back and forth to each other.
I mean, sure. Why not? It was a good scene. I really like it. I'm glad that we finally got to use Bill's list, and that honestly makes it worth it right there. So we'll fill that out and figure out what we want to do with Playbook Advance. So again, we got that to worry about. We got a Playbook Advancement for the ship next time. Hooray! Armin, what you got?
Let's see. Address a tough challenge with deception or influence. Yes.
You did?
I did.
This session?
I lied about there being stuff.
Sure.
The fact that he was bad at it doesn't mean he didn't address it.
Yeah, he didn't actually. He addressed it.
You addressed it poorly.
Yep.
Beliefs, drives, heritage, or background?
I think so.
I'm not calling it one way or the other. It's up to you.
Because what was the thing?
Maybe not this time. I'm not sure.
I was about to say, knowing that the Syndicate shouldn't have as good a gear as they should have had.
Yeah.
And that sort of like.
Yeah, but we didn't really do. I mean, I was kind of leaving the door open for you to like go and meet with the buyer, so you could like sort of pursue that a little bit more. We didn't really get there. Um, I think that's a door open for down the road probably for that. Take your ding. I think probably just that. I think just the one maybe because we didn't have vices or traumas. Much.
Okay.
I think we're good to there. Oh, you picked up Skulk. Look at you. I knew that. That was from last time. Okay. Okay. So you rolled a desperate action. Did you mark XP for your desperate action?
I did not.
All right. So that's one there for the desperate action. Finally got one checked for that. You addressed a tough challenge.
And that's just in the. I'm sorry.
In your character sheet, there's a bottom kind of left area that you gotta scroll down a bit. There's a mark XP playbook advancement.
Right, so it's just in the general one. As what I was trying to say. As opposed to okay.
It goes in general. You addressed a tough challenge with audacity. Yes. You expressed your beliefs, drives, heritage, or background. Yes. This is a good session for you. Aside from the screaming in your mind. You did not struggle with issues from your vice or traumas during this session. Aside from the screaming in your mind.
But yeah.
Aside, you could have gotten trauma, but yeah. Okay. Next time we'll get rid of that. Drifter. Bill, what do you think? I don't think we had a desperate action.
Yeah, no desperate rolls from me.
Speed or flare?
I want to say speed or flare.
I would say speed or flare twice.
I'll take it. And I want to say beliefs drives because parts of the ship are falling off. You know what? I don't care. Let's just roll.
Yeah. Technically, reducing mass against the predetermined thrust just means the ship goes faster. So yeah, take 3 there. That caps you out. Yay, look at that. Lovely. Take an advance there. Figure out all that kind of good stuff. Monster. If I have to tell you, Armin was bound and determined to have you blast a hole through the side of the station with your grenade launcher, just so you could use violence and get your XP. But you weren't on, so we had to We had to use the hacking
sorry about that.
It's okay.
I'm not seeing anything there that I feel legitimate.
I'm going to go one with the express your beliefs, drives, heritage, or background, because the command thing.
Sure.
While both hilarious and it feeds right into your deal, so I would definitely go with that. So take that one. And does that cap you?
Ping!
Ding!
That caps me.
Yay! Sweet.
Scary. Not scary.
Okay.
Scary. Not sweet.
So we got that, and finally we get to our friendly neighborhood Stitch.
Who finally got to stitch someone?
Yeah, finally got to stitch someone. You addressed a tough challenge, insider compassion. Yes, I'm gonna say yes on that. Beliefs, drives, heritage, or background. I'm gonna say yes to that simply because you got to science the ship and you actually helped, as opposed to everybody else. So I'll say yeah to that. Sounds good to me.
Huzzah.
Huzzah. So points accumulated there. You got 5 sitting around. Not quite enough to do anything with, but we'll get there.
That's fine.
Okay. So, you crazy kids, we're going to pile up out of here. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I think, good discussions this week about stuff that was frustrating us. I think we're all kind of on the same page with the stuff that was frustrating. I don't want to spend 20 minutes trying to figure out how to open a door either. So I am right there with you. We can avoid that. I don't mind spending the time on stuff like Margie's Attune because it's new stuff, it's weird stuff, and it was, resulted in some cool weirdness and stuff like that. So I'm kind of okay with that. The resistance rolls weren't nearly as annoying as I thought they were going to be, so that's okay.
They're actually one of the quicker ones.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's just weird how it feels in the fiction to me. And that's neither here nor there. It is what it is. But it's doing what it's supposed to do. And system aside, I'm enjoying the story that we're getting out of it. It just comes a little bit more in drips and drabs. It's still nowhere near, D&D 3.5's 20 minutes of fun packed into 5 hours. So good stuff there. I appreciate everybody's input and thoughts and stuff on that this week anyway, where we're sort of talking about the various stuff. And it seems like it's clicking okay. So we're doing good. I'm looking forward to the stuff that we find out next time. Anyway, that is about it. I spent the 20 minutes leading up to the beginning of this game accidentally falling asleep while I was looking up rules in the book, and would have in fact slept through the beginning of the game had not my wife said, "Hey, I got to go pick up Kaylee from swimming," which woke me up 2 minutes before 8. So I'm going to toddle the fuck off to bed.
And Dave, I asked you if you're going to post the recap on forums or not.
I can. I will go ahead and take what you got and pull it together and post it up on the forum.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And thank you, Dave, of course, as always. Your efforts there. Much appreciated. Thanks so much, guys. Fun stuff. I will talk to you later, and good night.
Okie dokie. Good night.